Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yoda Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, it is time for our very first mock draft of the 2023 season. I've been taking my time with it. I've been reading up on these dudes, watching some highlights, a little bit of tape, trying to figure out what I want the Chargers to do in the draft. Because, of course, I don't really think the Chargers have that many needs. Sure, I think there's going to be roles that need to be filled, more specifically by guys that are maybe leaving in free agency. Potentially guys like Drue Tranquill, Trey Pipkins, maybe Morgan Fox. But other than that, man, I think this team is going to have some options at pick number 20, more specifically in the first round, right? Some of the talent that should be available to the Chargers in the first round. Be beautiful. And in a season where I may be predicting the Chargers to go pretty offensive heavy, it is especially exciting. If you guys have been living under a rock and you didn't know, the Chargers picked up former Dallas Cowboys offense coordinator Kellen Moore. And I do expect the Chargers to try and build that new offense in the draft a little bit, especially considering we don't have that much cap to go out in free agency and pick up a lot of these dudes. So I think it should be a pretty exciting one in terms of skill positions for the Chargers in the 2021 NFL draft. So for those of you who don't know, last season we tried this out. It was a lot of fun. The way these drafts work is we're going to go 3 drafts deep, okay, and 3 rounds deep as we're starting off. We're going to call it draft A, B, and C. And you guys in the comment section below can follow along and let me know which of these drafts you agree with the most. You can also leave some comments whether or not you want to swap a guy in, swap a guy out, some of the decision making there. So it should be a pretty good time. Before we do get started, guys, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. A lot of the YouTubers out there with the Underdog Fantasy sponsor. Super fun platform. One of my favorite ways to engage with the NFL season. Now that's over and done with. You guys can check out the NBA, baseball, NHL. It's a great way to support the channel and have some fun along the way. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Now, before we kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into our first mock draft, baby. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers 2023 NFL mock draft, take 1. We'll be going 3 rounds deep. Once again, guys, we're going to do 3 mock drafts. This first draft is going to be draft A. And we're going to kind of take what the board gives us. This is both in terms of trying to see what the Chargers need, as well as seeing how these projections change through the course of the next couple of months. There's some guys we might draft today in the second, third round that may not be available. There may be some guys that climb that we did agree with a little bit later in the projections today, too. So it should be a good time. Let's start things off here, man. The Chargers at pick number 21. What are they looking at for an offense? What are they looking at on defense? And let's see what players are picked up just before our pick here. And we're going to go over a couple of the guys that I think may slide, some of the options the Chargers could be looking at. So before we get into our pick, right, some of the needs for the team. Wide receiver. I think everybody, including especially Kellen Moore, say that speed is definitely not a bad idea, and that's something the Chargers are sorely lacking at this point. Until Trey Pipkins is maybe re-signed, the Chargers are going to have a need at tackle as well, and then we are projecting maybe a need at linebacker. I'm really hoping we bring back Drue Tranquill, but the way this team has trended in the past, you just never know, especially with the money issues that we're having this season. So some of the players that were taken right before us, Jackson Smith and Jigba. This guy, I do need to point out, because I'm not going to say he's Keenan Allen, because he's not, but you can kind of throw him into a similar role. He's going to be an available wide receiver. Definitely not the fastest guy in this class. Definitely doesn't have some of the things that the Chargers are looking for. But if the Bolts at any point in time, let's say in the next 3 years, whether it be from free agency or moving on via cut or trade, there may be plans on moving on from Keenan Allen. And Jackson Smith, he might be the kind of guy that can step into that role eventually. Not my favorite pick. I think he would work elsewhere on other teams that need that Keenan Allen type. But at the same time, it's something to consider. At least put it in your minds that maybe the Chargers could be considering this guy. Still a very talented player, but not one that I think the Chargers need. Interior defensive lineman is also something that if it does fall, the Chargers may pounce on, because I don't see that as being a very deep position this season. It's certainly going to be something the Chargers need to fix. The run defense defense is still definitely a huge need. And then followed by guys like Joey Porter, cornerback out of Penn State. This is something that, again, the Chargers may have only one more season, let's say with a Vato, a Michael Davis, that tall, physical, speedy outside corner. And guys like Joey Porter certainly fit that bill. 6'2", very athletic. I think the guy beneath him fits the Chargers a little bit more in Deonte Banks in terms of what his role would be. But both of these guys, again, they got the stature, they got the speed. Something could be in the works in terms of the Chargers planning ahead, let's say past a guy like Vato in the future. So keep these kind of guys in mind as we do move forward. Now let's see what the board has given us. Broderick Jones. This is the first time I've seen him available here in the first round. Could be a very, very nice pickup at tackle. Again, if Trey Pipkins is gone and you see Broderick out here, available in the first round, it might be something you just have to pull the trigger on. At this point, I'm really hoping we have Trey Pipkins back, but it's something definitely to consider. Having a complete offensive line going into this season would be massive. Again, the offensive line from left to right: Slater, Sawyer, Lindsley, Zion, and then a big question mark at right tackle. If we can fill it with a guy like Broderick Jones, I don't know, man. That would look probably one of the better looking offensive lines you'll find in the NFL going into the 2023 season. Next up, we got Zay Flowers, which I will say he has already contacted the Chargers. The Chargers and them have already been talking. I would say because Zay is one of the fastest wide receivers in this draft. I don't know if he'll end up being the fastest, but when it comes to the quickness on this guy, even right here, it says quickness, right? The ability to get open, the ability in terms of utilizing that agility, utilizing that swiftiness, it's really, really evident when you watch this guy play. And honestly, what good is speed if you're not able to find space? And Zay Flowers is one of the best guys in this draft that can do so. I would say at this point, in terms of top 3 fan favorites, Zay Flowers is certainly in that conversation and certainly under consideration for me, as the Chargers, I would say, again, one of the biggest elements lacking from this offense is speed. Zay Flowers could be one of the more complete players to offer that speed. And a lot of people at this point are also asking me, well, director, who would you take between Zay Flowers and Jalin Hyatt? And I would say I love both players a little bit for different reasons. Zay Flowers, again, more complete, has the quickness and the agility, whereas I do see a Jalin Hyatt being faster, perhaps maybe the fastest player in this draft, maybe a bit more in terms of like secure hands, contested catch ability, but maybe not as shifty. It doesn't have the best ability at getting open, certainly versus press man. So kind of, pick your poison in this case. Let's go ahead and move past. Let's see a couple more players here before we do move on. Dalton Kincaid we'll get into in just a minute. Nolan Smith, Bijan Robinson, Michael Mayer, definitely some options down here. But as for our first draft A mock draft, we got to go with the fan favorite, Zay Flowers. Provide that speed for Justin Herbert. One of the biggest, most mind-boggling things when it comes to the Chargers is having a quarterback like Justin Herbert, one of the best arms in the entire NFL, and not having a speed option for him. So we're going to go with Zay Flowers, give him that weapon. This could completely transform the Chargers offense. If all of a sudden you got a weapon that can stretch the field, it's going to help you out in the run. It's going to help you out underneath. It's going to make defenses respect that deep ball. And you look at a completely different defense when you got a weapon like Zay Flowers on the field. So Zay Flowers in the first round, feeling really good about it. Now let's go here into the second round and see some of the options available. So some of the guys taken right before that I do kind of like. Siaki Ika, dude, this is somebody that I think that the Chargers should be looking at in the second round if he does become available. We just missed him by a couple of picks here, but this is one of the best run defending defensive linemen you'll find in this draft. And this dude is huge. 6'4", 358 pounds. Some people are saying that he probably should try and lose a little bit of weight so he can play more downs, but this dude is who you throw in at nose tackle if you want to stop the run. So maybe we'll see him available in later drafts. You never know. And then maybe some of these other guys up here. DeJuan Jones is certainly maybe even a first. I think he could climb into the first round at some point. This guy is absolutely massive. 6'8", 350 pounds. Maybe one of my favorite prospects in terms of right tackle for the Chargers. That's definitely something to consider there, but let's see what the board has handed us at this point. Center John Michael Schmitz. John Jacob Jingleheimer, Michael Schmitz. One of the better centers in this draft. I think the Chargers definitely solid right now. Maybe even one of the best situations in terms of Corey Linsley. I want Linsley on this team as long as possible. The Chargers want to draft a replacement to develop in Linsley's time and then roll him in later. I can maybe go ahead and see that. But I don't know if I'm in the business of an offensive lineman in the second round unless it's a guy that we trade up for, maybe even falls like DeJuan Jones. Matthew Bergeron, definitely not bad. Sam Laporta, tight end. This is also a guy I want you guys to pay attention to. Sam Laporta, a lot of us know that Director's a big fan of Dalton Kincaid, all right? And Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid, a little bit similar, but obviously Kincaid is much more elite, has a much higher ceiling. Laporta, though, is going to be another one of those pure receiving threat tight ends, right? He doesn't have the best catch radius. He does have very good yards after catch, and I do think his his athleticism certainly does put him above a lot of other tight ends on this list. So I'm going to say Sam Laporta. Definitely I'm eyeing him right here. Chargers as far as the tight end situation. We don't have Donald Parham as of right now. I do think the Chargers a good chance of them re-signing him. We have Gerald Everett for one more season. The tight ends in this class are looking really good, so maybe not a bad idea to draft a replacement to replace Everett eventually, especially if you have a talent like Sam Laporta. This guy would be absolutely fantastic when paired up with Justin Herbert. The biggest nick I have on this guy, though, is definitely his contested catch abilities. Tight ends are usually known for going up there and bringing down those, possession catches in traffic, and I just don't know if Sam Laporta really has that trait yet. He could definitely figure it out along the way, but in terms of getting open, using that speed, and plowing through tacklers, Laporta is one of the best in this draft. Who else have we got here? Sidney Brown is somebody that I'm starting to kind of recognize as a very intelligent pick for the Chargers, because I think safety, very under the radar, super needy for the Chargers. We might likely be moving on from Nasir Adderley. We do have Derwin James, maybe Alohi Gilman, who's certainly been stepping up this last season, steps into that role as well. But safety could be a very underrated need. And I love Sidney Brown. Very fast, very smooth. That's like they're saying here, explosive in open field. I think he does struggle in terms of his tackling. Yes, he does. But he's a very versatile player as it's being listed right here. And that's something that the Chargers definitely like to work with in terms of their defense. I will also label one more guy because he is a fall candidate. That if he were to fall in the first round, maybe one of the only defensive players that I think realistically the Chargers could go after. And that's going to be Brian Branch up here, was taking 6 overall, and I do think that's not too far out of the realm of possibility, but you never know with these safety positions. Brian, very hard-hitting safety, very physical, very fast, very complete-looking player. He would be absolutely fantastic with the Chargers, and this is one of those only few exceptions. I do not think he'll be available at 21, but you really never know. That's one of my exceptions in terms of defense. I also wouldn't really mind some of those taller cornerbacks that we saw earlier in the first round. So in terms of the second round in Draft A, very interesting here. I think Zach Charbonnet is definitely not too bad. Too very physical halfback, but I don't know if we're looking for another halfback at this point. Jamie Robinson. Isaiah Foskey. I like this guy a lot. Very physical. I think, what was he? The leader in stats for Notre Dame in terms of sacks and tackles, right? I don't know if they have it put down here. 23 sacks, 65 pressures last 2 years. Ridiculous. I think Foskey has a lot of potential in the NFL. One of my favorite guys in the second round if we wanted to go edge. But in terms of this draft, I think for me, it's going to be between Sam Laporta and Sidney Brown. Sidney Brown would definitely fill a need. Maybe not the biggest guy out there. What was he, like 5'11"? 6 foot. Okay, maybe not too bad. 6 foot. It really is between those two. I think if we're focusing on the offense in this draft, I'm going to take Sam Laporta, and I'm going to feel really good about it. Again, not the perfect tight end, but at the same time, he's exactly the kind of tight end that the Chargers want to utilize. They want another receiver out there. In terms of his blocking, I think he's okay, but I think the Chargers more often than not use their tight ends as receivers. Whereas you take a look at this other guy down here, which he fell very dramatically, Darnell Washington. This is more of your blocker, right? This is the guy that you get out there to improve your run game. He's not going to offer you much in terms of receptions. What did he get last season? 454 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not too impressive, but what he offered as a blocker was certainly very impressive. Would he work out with the Chargers? Sure, but the Chargers don't really look for that as much in their tight end position, and that's why I think Sam Laporta, definitely a very solid pick for the Chargers. All right, right before the Chargers were taking Cody Munch. I really love this guy. Maybe if he ends up being falling, maybe there was some controversy behind him. I don't remember. I remember reading something about him, but DeMarvion Overshown, this guy's a hugely hard-hitting linebacker, and he's very fast, very athletic. That's somebody to take into consideration, maybe if he falls in the next draft. Who do we have available to us here in the third round? Parker Washington. Oh, man, this would be a very controversial one, too, because Parker Washington, definitely not the fastest guy. But what this guy does is just simply get open. Again, maybe the kind of player that can play kind of a Keenan Allen role. Reminds some people of a Wes Welker, a Julian Edelman type wide receiver. Definitely not fast, but the dude just knows how to get open. I don't know. I don't know if we need another one. I think that Josh Palmer might have that role pretty solidified. Moro Ojomo right here. Interior defensive line, certainly something that the Chargers need to focus on and try to improve that run stopping ability here. And I do think that the pass rushing ability, maybe that a Morgan Fox offers, is more what you're getting out of this player. Would he fit our system? Would he fit our needs? Maybe eventually, but we just don't know right now. I do think this is a very good player, though, and it's definitely what I'm considering even right now as the Chargers, again, are trying to find ways to solve some of these issues we saw last season. Then finally, some of these other guys down here. Jaquelin Roy is also another really good interior defender. Drew Sanders. This is more of your coverage linebacker. So we're in the 3rd round at this point, right? If the Chargers don't have a Drew Tranquill, Drew Sanders could be that guy. What, 6'5", right? Definitely not 2. I don't know. He's not the pass coverage. This is the blitzing guy. That's right. So he's gonna be a guy that maybe you rotate in with like a Chris Rumph, right? Who's the coverage guy? I remember seeing the coverage guy down here a minute ago. Was it Dorian Williams? I think it was Dorian Williams. Yes. Okay, so we got 2 options here. We got Dorian Williams, who's more of your coverage linebacker, and then you got Drew Sanders, who's more of your blitzer. I think linebacker might not be a bad idea considering the Chargers' situation in both ends. I think Chris Rumph is definitely improving. Not having Kyle Van Noy could be a little bit of an issue, especially with the health concerns of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. So do we go with Drew Sanders that has some potential to rotate in as a solid, blitzer, or do we go with Dorian Williams, who's more of that coverage guy that could maybe fit in the role the Chargers need in terms of their linebackers and coverage? Or do we maybe look a little bit higher here on the list? I think Morrow could be pretty good. I'm tempted to take Darnell Washington. 2 tight ends back-to-back is crazy, but having a really solid blocking tight end might not be a bad idea. I think in this draft, I think I'm going to take Dorian Williams. Again, maybe not the best pick right there. Who knows? But I'm just looking at the situation with Drew Tranquill. If he's not with this team, that's going to be something the Chargers really need to focus on. So here's your draft A. We got Zay Flowers, we got Sam Laporta, and Dorian Williams. I feel pretty good about that. I would say specifically this Zay Flowers pick in the 1st round is something to be very excited about. The Chargers need speed. They not only got a very fast player, probably one of the most complete fast wide receivers in this draft, whose name isn't like Jordan Addison. All right, so very, very nice. Let's move into draft B. We might go a little bit faster now that we've got a lot of the explanation out the door here. So let's start things off, see what the board gives us, see what the Chargers are working with here. We're going to try and mix things up here a little bit here in draft B. And let's see who was taken just before the Chargers. Andre Carter, Jordan Addison, almost made it to us. Broderick Jones. And available to us here, we got Joey. But now I'm very tempted to go defense in the 1st round. I actually don't think it's going to happen, as considering that we're rebuilding the offense for Kellen Moore. But Joey Porter, very impressive. I think he would turn out to be a very good corner for the Chargers. We still have Zay Flowers in here. Of course, we got Dalton Kincaid. We got Bijan Robinson and Michael Mayer. Now, I'm going to say first, I'm kind of shocked that Michael Mayer is beneath Dalton Kincaid. I think Michael Mayer is more of a complete player in terms of when he'll translate into the NFL. I think that talent's going to elevate a lot sooner. He's definitely a heck of a blocker. Kincaid's not terrible. I don't think he's going to be asked to do a lot of that, but Michael Mayer, dude, you can ask this guy to really get in there and affect the run game, pass pro, whatever. Very, very complete tight end. Sure, he's not the fastest guy, but he can be your red zone target. He can be your safety blanket. He's going to come up with contested catches, 10 out of 10 times. Not really, but I think his percentage chance with that was really, really high in terms of his last couple of seasons. Very, very nice, complete looking player. One of my favorite in the draft. Before that, who was available to us here? Smith and Jigba. Again, if we're looking at a Keenan replacement down the road, maybe not a bad idea. I would still be excited if we got Jackson, but at the same time, we need speed, and he just doesn't have that right now. I wouldn't be bad with the corner, but I'm not gonna pull your guys' leg too far out here. We're gonna go with Dalton Kincaid. Before we pull the trigger on it, why do the Chargers need Dalton Kincaid? Tight end is not really a big need, director. We got Gerald Everett, the Yak Monster. Sure, he has some drop issues here and there, but he's a solid enough tight end. Well, if you guys take a look at the NFL, most quarterbacks that are elite have a very solid tight end. Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews. Of course, Patrick Mahomes with Travis Kelce. You got Tom Brady and Gronk forever. And, of course, Phillip Rivers with Antonio Gates. I kind of want to go out there and get Justin Herbert, his version of that. And I think Dalton Kincaid fits what the Chargers want out of that position. Sure, I think I'm slightly higher on Michael Mayer in terms of what he offers, the run game, a complete player. Think he's going to translate a little bit faster. I'm a big fan of Michael Mayer, but I think the Chargers want a guy like Dalton Kincaid out of Utah for what he possesses. This might be one of the fastest tight ends in the draft. Look at these stats from last season, man. 890 yards, 8 touchdowns. This guy is a pure receiver, and I think I did read, and some people were mentioning that he was a receiver before changing to tight end at some point before Utah. It's really cool to see the Chargers maybe in a position to grab a guy for Justin Herbert to pair up with, maybe for the rest of their careers. Dalton Kincaid is an animal. He's a playmaker. He gets open. He's fast. He really is the pure receiver that the Chargers could fuse with Justin Herbert to provide that guy for him going throughout the rest of their career. So I don't know, man. I really like Dalton Kincaid. He would add that speed that we're looking for, maybe not at wide receiver, but at the tight end position specifically. And it would be very cool to see the plays that those two can connect with. So I think Dalton Kincaid's going to be the move here. We'll see how it goes. It does kind of suck passing on Zay Flowers. Between the two, I would be happy going either way. I think I would lean a little bit more Zay Flowers, but Dalton Kincaid could be that big difference maker at tight end that we've been looking for since Antonio Gates. I think, Hunter Henry was definitely nice, but finding that true receiver, Dalton Kincaid fits the bills and checks all the boxes there. So I like him quite a bit. So here in the second round, we got a tight end. What are we looking for still? We still need that speed at wide receiver. And that's kind of what I like about this draft. We do have options at wide receiver. So who do we have here at the top? We still have Michael Schmitz, Garrett Williams. Definitely not a bad cornerback here. I think a little bit, in terms of physicality, pretty nice. Keon White at edge. Let's take a look at the wide receiver specifically. Let's take a look at that position because that's what the Chargers are going to be looking for. And we already know who we're going to take. We see him here on the board. But what about these other guys, right? Keyshawn Boots, 6 foot. Not much information on him. I think let's just take a look at this guy. This is going to be another player that Chargers fans will be, pounding the table for. Jalen Hyatt. Now, I think Hyatt is going to turn out to be the fastest wide receiver in this draft, maybe the fastest player in this draft entirely. And he's definitely not on the small side either. 6'1", maybe only 180 pounds, could put on a little bit of weight, but that does measure up to the NFL beautifully. Now, what does he bring in terms of the Chargers offense? Well, he's definitely a pure vertical threat. Throw him on a go route. I would say he might need some time in the slot because from what I did see here, defeating press coverage was certainly something that he struggled with. Very easy to knock him out of that rhythm. But at the same time, that pure speed just might be enough to unlock the most lethal version of Justin Herbert possible. Do I expect this guy to break the NFL, 40-yard dash record? No, but I do expect him to run somewhere in the 4.36 range, 4.38. If he can get a little bit lower than that, maybe like 4.34, 4.2 in the 4.2s at all, I think this would be somebody that the Chargers should definitely target. Now, here's the issue. Fast guys, let's say the fastest players in the draft, they usually get drafted a lot higher than their projections say here. So do I think that if he runs, let's say a 4.32, right? Maybe a 4.31. This could bring him, in terms of his draft capital, a lot higher. And I do not think he would be available to the Chargers in the second round. But here's the thing. Let's say the Chargers do get Kincaid in the first round. I'm not opposed to trading up into the early second, maybe even late first, to grab that pairing. The fast tight end, the physical playmaking tight end, and then the fast player in a guy like Jalen Hyatt. Maybe a guy like Zay Flowers falls. There's also a flurry of other wide receivers that are certainly not bad in terms of the speed. Who are some of the other guys that were drafted before? Nathaniel Dell, certainly not bad. Josh Downs would be pretty sick. Wide receivers with speed, not Jackson. So, yeah, we have some options out here. But if the Chargers get incredibly lucky, grab that tight end, also see a guy like Jalen Hyatt on the board, you pull the trigger, you don't look back, and you find yourself with almost a completely revamped offense because of the speed both of these guys offer. So that's kind of the dream scenario right there for me already. Kincaid and Jalen Hyatt back-to-back, that would be a huge win for this team. Then finally, DeWayne McBride, really still available here. 2 down back. All right, not really looking for a running back. I would say at this round, we already got a guy like that we're trying to develop in Simmons, or I should say Isaiah Spiller. Sorry, guys, Isaiah Simmons. A lot of research on him in that year. Isaiah Spiller, the guy that we have on the team right now. Everybody else here available. JL Skinner's also very interesting. Maybe not the best deep safety, but this dude's dude's huge. 6'4", 220 pounds. You can run him in the slot. You can run him close to the line of scrimmage. I think he's versatile enough that the Chargers would definitely like him. That's somebody to definitely consider. And again, safety kind of a need for this team. I'm actually going to go with him. JL Skinner. So at that position, we have JL Skinner and JT Woods. JL and JT at the safety position. I think this guy may be more of a strong safety, but still, you can interchange these guys a little bit. So here's your mock draft B for the Chargers. It's gonna close out here with Dalton Kincaid, Jalen Hyatt, and JL Skinner. Okay, so we got ourselves that safety, the wide receiver, and the tight end. Definitely not looking too bad. Let's roll into our last draft. This video getting a little bit long, but again, most of the explanation out the door. We're gonna roll through this one a little bit quicker and see if we can, again, shake things up dramatically. Because there's one more player I think could dramatically change this team overnight. And I'm not even sure if he'll be available to the Chargers here at 21. Let's see if he's available in this draft here. And he is. Bijan Robinson. All right, guys, here's the situation. I know a lot of people are going to say, Director, you're crazy. Never take a running back in the first round. That's always been the deal, okay? Well, hear me out. Bijan Robinson may just end up being the best player in the draft. I mean, he may only be accessible to the Chargers because of that position at running back. Well, Director, we already have, Austin Ekeler. Why in the world would we draft, another running back? Well, for one, this season alone, let's say we pair them up, right? Austin Ekeler plus Bijan Robinson, absolutely insane. To kind of go over Bijan just a little bit, right? He's a very complete running back. Absolutely complete. He's got the route running in terms of receiving. He's got the physicality in terms of running it down the field. He's got the feature role. Everything about him screams superstar. The next, maybe even better, Saquon Barkley. Some people say he's Saquon mixed with a Christian McCaffrey. That's how good he is in the passing game. Okay? So when you match up a player like that with Austin Ekeler, beautiful things happen. Ekeler probably becomes more of a receiving back than he already has been, and Bijan maybe becomes more of a featured guy that we could maybe, in terms of the future, look at towards the running back position. Because again, Austin Ekeler only in contract for one more season. I do think there's a really good shot, and I certainly hope that they do extend him. That would lower his cap hit this year and then extend him into the future. But if the Chargers are looking for a replacement, Bijan Robinson may be one of the best prospects they ever come by. Let's say in the next 10 years, and maybe even the Justin Herbert era. Bijan Robinson is that special. So to pass up on him, I don't know. We at least have to put in a scenario where the Chargers do go after him. So I'm going to take Bijan Robinson here in the first round with the mindset of pairing him up with Austin Ekeler and maybe letting Ekeler pass the torch to him in the next couple of seasons when Austin Ekeler is a free agent. And that's a pretty big decision right there, guys. Bijan Robinson, I tell you right now, if the Chargers are looking to fix that run game, adding a talent like him would do it overnight almost. I gotta say it, man. That dude's gonna be one of the best running backs in the NFL for a long time. Now this begs the question in the second round, what are we looking for here? We're looking for speed wide receiver, and guess who should still be available? Jalen Hyatt. Now let's say again, just like the Kincaid situation, what if the Chargers trade up? Let's say Jalen Hyatt's draft stock goes up because he runs an incredible 40. I still think the Chargers could trade up and get this fast wide receiver to pair up with Justin Herbert, and now you've got one of the best running backs in the league, potentially. So we're going to take Jalen Hyatt here. I wouldn't mind a trade. And to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what that would cost, if the Chargers, let's say, traded up to pick, 35 or 36, it would cost our second and third round pick to do so. Would you guys be happy with that? If we traded up, let's say we only had 2 picks in the first 3 rounds, and it resulted in Jalen Hyatt and Bijan Robinson, I don't know if I could be too upset about that. But in this draft, we're going to take what the board gives us. Jalen Hyatt, we get the fastest wide receiver in the draft potentially. That's looking really, really nice. And then finally in the third round to wrap things up here, Derek Hall, definitely not a bad choice here either. We're going to get one of those guys to rotate in at edge. Certainly not bad. Might actually end up being the pick. We got Skinner again. We need safety. You could take a Cody Much and feel okay about that swing tackle situation. He could definitely go into center guard, something like that. Just add some depth to the line a little bit here. I'm going to go with, for sake of a variety a little bit, we're going to take the edge. I think Derek Hall could certainly turn out to be a very nice backup edge for the Chargers, somebody you can swing in lieu of Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack at some point. So here we go, guys. This is draft C. And again, we didn't get that difference maker tight end. We could have gone after Kraft, who is certainly available, I would say, in the third round. There's a couple other tight ends that I do like, but in terms of what the board gave us, this is kind of what I liked. So as a refresher, let me know in the comment section below who you got or which draft that you guys like the most. Here's draft A: Zay Flowers, Sam Laporta, and Dorian Williams. Speedy wide receiver, definitely a weapon in terms of tight end, the way that he's used as a receiver. Then Dorian Williams, the coverage linebacker. The next, here is your draft B: Dalton Kincaid, who could turn out to be one of the best tight ends in this draft. Certainly a huge weapon for Justin Herbert going forward. Jalen Hyatt, the speed at wide receiver, and then J.L. Skinner at safety. And then finally, draft C: Bijan Robinson, perhaps the best player in this draft. Jalen Hyatt, your speed wide receiver, then Derek Hall. You could also flip-flop saying that we traded that third round to get Jalen Hyatt as well. A couple of different ways to look at that. You guys let me know in the comment section below which one of those drafts is your favorite. As for me, what is my favorite? I'll be honest with you guys, I really want Zay Flowers. He's probably my favorite right now. Him and Dalton are kind of neck and neck for me. But Zay Flowers and Sam Laporta, which is also, there's a fantastic first two rounds, mind you. Weighing that against Dalton Kincaid and Jalen Hyatt, even if you have to trade up for Jalen, I think I got to go with this one. I think I got to go with Dalton Kincaid and Jalen Hyatt. I am very, very adamant that the Chargers find a guy for Justin Herbert, whether it be through free agency or the draft. I'm really hoping the draft. I think Dalton Kincaid could be that difference maker for him for very many years to come. Then finally, this draft. This is a very exciting draft to think about. It's not one that I want to throw out. I don't really know if I want to go that far as to use a first-round pick for a running back, but Bijan is the only guy that's really going to make me change my mind on that. He's that special of a talent. I'll say my favorite's going to be draft B. You guys let me know in the comment section which of these drafts is your favorite. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Make sure, again, to hit up Underdog Fantasy. If you guys are out there playing fantasy, NBA, NHL, baseball, whatever, it's always a good time, and it also does support the channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you did like this, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Dalton Kincaid, man, him and Justin Herbert would be absolutely filthy.